The dream is to change the world. The dream is to reimagine what's possible. So I think that El Salvador is so important. It's the most important place in the world right now. That's why we're all here, right? Because we recognize that it is a rare opportunity in human history to make an impact on the future. It's a small enough country that we can make a difference, right? It doesn't we don't need 1 million people working in lockstep to make a difference here, right? We just need a smaller number of people that are really committed. So we really can make a difference, and what happens in El Salvador will echo around the world for a generation. If we do it right here, we can change El Salvador. We can. That is achievable.
Welcome to another interview with Nikki and James, and today we have John with My First Bitcoin, or Mi Primer Bitcoin. And he's originally from the States, but he's done a lot of traveling around the world. He's even an author. But the main reason we're here today is to learn about the project where, first and foremost, he is educating Salvadorans on Bitcoin. And then we're going to go and, we're going to be part of this. We're going to go and educate the world using My First Bitcoin and how they can safely use Bitcoin and the Lightning Network and help to educate other people. So welcome, John. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you guys for having me. Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, no, it's really great. Before we get into the details of the Bitcoin, just a little bit about you. So, where did you grow up? Yeah, just a little bit about where you've been traveling and what got you to El Salvador.
Yeah, sure.
Great.
So I'm from New York originally. I grew up there. I lived in that area until I was 22. I went to college in the area as well, and I was unhappy with the direction that the United States was heading in. This is 2005 now, so this is a while ago. So I left. I moved to Ecuador. I lived in Ecuador for 5 years, and I loved it there. I love Latin America. Something that has drawn me to Latin America is the power of social movements here, right? When people don't like something, then they stand up for themselves. Wow. And that's always attracted me to this region. So I have a natural affinity for Latin America. I got into Bitcoin in 2013. It was just attractive to me because it seemed a way to check the power of the state, right? To check not just the state, but to that individuals could assert themselves in their own lives, that they could have agency and sovereignty against not just government, but against institutions, against any concentration of power. So when I heard about El Salvador adopting Bitcoin, then it just seemed like those two interests just collided, right? So that's what brought me to El Salvador. I wondered if there was something that I could do to support what would happen here with Bitcoin, because I believe that as Bitcoiners, we should all be active in this journey of Bitcoin adoption, because for me, one of the points of Bitcoin is to not let others decide for you, right? To decide for ourselves. And the best way that we can predict the future is to create it.
Wow.
So I think we all as Bitcoiners have a certain responsibility to make sure that, because we all believe that Bitcoin could lead to a better world, right? And if we believe that, then we have to be active in that.
Yes.
Wow.
Cool philosophy.
That is really good.
Yeah.
And it's so true in the fact that if you believe in Bitcoin, what is it that you're doing to actually help make this happen? And what are you putting into it?
Yeah.
Something we talk about.
It is. I think it's quite important as well, where you mentioned that as humans we have a very strong ability, which I'm not always sure we recognize fully, to create our futures and create our lives. And Bitcoin is a tool that is incredibly powerful in that direction, to take something that seems almost esoteric in our mind and then bring it. It's funny that it ends up being a digital asset that brings that to the reality of life. It's quite funny.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Bitcoin is a tool.
Yeah.
Right. Bitcoin is a tool that has the ability to empower us,
Yeah.
to empower individuals.
With starting My First Bitcoin, or Mi Premier Bitcoin, did you have education experience, or was what did it? I mean, for all Bitcoiners, I think a large part of it is we're all on the frontier and we're all learning as we go. But is there some sort of history that you had that made you think I can do this?
So I had worked in Ecuador and then other places. So I lived off and on in different countries in Latin America for most of my adult life, and I started teaching English so I have some experience with teaching there, but it's not that I think that that I have this great background in education. I think education is just what's most important. And to be clear, I actually don't teach any classes here, right? Like, one of my roles is to make it easier for the people that do that, right? So all the classes here are taught by Salvadorians, right? Because they understand the context better than I ever could, or better than anyone else. So they're the best people to deliver that message. But the reason why I wanted to do something with education is just because I think that is a high leverage opportunity. That is how we could make the most difference, is just ensuring, because it all starts with education, right? There's so many other things, right? We need people to use Bitcoin, right? We need merchant adoption. We need so many things, but the base of all of that is education. People won't use Bitcoin if they don't understand it, right? Or they won't use it correctly if they don't understand it. People won't accept it at their business if they don't understand it. It all starts, the base layer of everything, the foundation has to be knowledge, right? And also, as someone who really deeply believes in the mission of empowerment and that Bitcoin is a tool to achieve that, education is also a high leverage opportunity there, because it's harder to do that at other points in the cycle, if you're just talking about like merchant adoption, for example. But with education, especially, so we target people who are new to Bitcoin, who are just starting that journey. And we try to make sure that they just have a really good foundation to start off with.
That's awesome. So My First Bitcoin are not necessarily just teaching people how to download a wallet and load a wallet and go and trade on an exchange. It's a lot deeper than that, right?
Yeah, we actually don't talk about trading as a point of principle. That's a lot of students ask about that.
Yeah.
They ask, and maybe that what begins the curiosity with them is like, oh, I heard people made money with this. Can I make money with this?
Yes.
Right. And that's what starts the wheels in their mind, and it gets them curious, and maybe they come to a class then. But we try to teach people just the basics. What is Bitcoin? Why is Bitcoin? And we don't focus on trading, because I think trading, me personally, I think that misses the point, right? That is not the power of Bitcoin. The power of Bitcoin is not to make more dollars. The power of Bitcoin is to make dollars irrelevant.
Wow. So just maybe for some of our viewers, could you elaborate on to make dollars irrelevant? So that's a really deep concept. I really like it. Do you mind elaborating on that just a little bit, just to maybe an example?
Sure. So dollars and Bitcoin, they represent two poles, right? Bitcoin, as I said, represents agency in our own lives, self-sovereignty, personal responsibility. And dollars represent the opposite. Dollars represent a system in which someone else decides how many dollars there are, someone else decides how we could spend it, right? Maybe they don't like political party or cause or whatever, and you can't use your dollars there, right? They decide, someone else decides for you. So when I say I'd like Bitcoin to make dollars irrelevant, then I mean I'd like to replace a world in which someone else decides for us with a world in which we decide.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I like it. One of my favorite quotes I like to tweet on occasion is that every dollar we spend is a vote.
Mm-hmm.
And that actually voting for political parties might not be as powerful as we think.
No.
And we actually have a lot more power in the way we spend our money on, for example, the foods we eat, or the exercise we partake in, or the political parties we support. And we, like you say, we can be influenced. And the thing with Bitcoin is Bitcoin doesn't care how we spend it or who we spend it with. And that puts the vote power back in people's hands. And that's, that's super powerful.
Yeah, there's a quote that I like. We create revolution by living it.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, but it's the same thing that you're talking about. It's not which box we check, because we don't even choose the boxes. When someone else chooses the boxes and say choose A or B, it's the illusion of choice, right?
Yeah.
Because when someone presents you with 2 options or 3 options, whatever, they're deciding the range of possibilities for you, right? That's not us choosing. That's the illusion of us choosing. So real change, not to say that people shouldn't do that. I mean, that's up to everyone as an individual, but the real power that we have is how we live our everyday life.
Yeah, that is awesome. And Bitcoin gives us more power to make more choices outside of the box.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And through my first Bitcoin, you mentioned about the importance of empowering people. So with the diploma that people sit down into or they take, that empowerment, what is in the Diploma Bitcoin course that helps people take their empowerment?
Yeah. So we have a few different course offerings, but the 2 main ones are just this basic intro, which is just a 90-minute, 1-day course. But then we also have a Bitcoin Diploma, which is a 10-week program. So, we could get a lot more in depth in the 10-week program. And in that, it begins, the first 3 weeks is essentially financial literacy.
Right.
So it's what is money?
Wow.
What is the history of money? How did we arrive at this moment? Which is actually something that, forget about Bitcoin. Financial literacy is also something that is extremely important, that is undervalued in this world, right? Like, I never learned it when I went to school. Like, it's not a normal thing, which is weird because it has such a huge impact on our life. But anyway, so that's just setting the foundation.
Yeah.
In order to understand the value of Bitcoin, we need to understand the world in which we currently live, right? So it's just, the first part of the course is just setting that foundation. And then once students have a little bit of background there, then we go into Bitcoin in a variety of different ways. We touch on mining, setting up a node, the future of Bitcoin, like different, how it might change the world and their world. And the reason why students, our hope is that students leave that feeling empowered is many, right? It creates new possibilities for them. It allows students to expand their horizons, and it does that in a few ways. Bitcoin is borderless, right? So we have it at graduations, then we'll have foreigners come from other countries to help students with their final exam. And also one thing that we're soon starting is we're going to connect people via Twitter, like mentors and mentees in different parts of the world.
Right.
Another thing we've thought about is having meetups where the bonus is paid by a meetup in a different part of the country. It could be like in New Zealand, but they pay that and that. So Bitcoin breaks down borders for people. And we try to demonstrate that. One of the core philosophies of New Premier Bitcoin is to, whenever possible, show rather than tell, right? So it's not just theory.
Yeah.
We're not saying like Bitcoin is borderless. All right, let's move on to the next topic.
Yeah.
We're demonstrating
Yes.
how it's borderless. And when people see that, then it opens up a world of new possibilities for them. Also, we try to create visible pathways for economic alternatives for them.
Wow.
There's a student in Itaco. He graduated with our diploma a month ago, and really great student, like really got it. He's graduating high school next month.
Yeah.
Next year, he's going to be a teacher at that school, and he's going to teach his younger peers about Bitcoin.
Wow.
Right. And also we're trying to work with other Bitcoin companies to create a visible pathway for an alternative economic reality for them, that they don't have to be limited to things here, right? Bitcoin is borderless, so there's a company in the United States, payment processor, and they want to source what is effectively like customer support, but they do Bitcoin payments. That's one of the things that they do, so they have to be knowledgeable about Bitcoin. So they want to source the staff from graduates of the Bitcoin diploma. So just things like that. Like we're trying to create visible pathways, and also beyond that, it's empowering to people. So the Bitcoin diploma started just in high schools. We actually teach it now in a variety of other places, not just in schools, but we teach it out of some city halls here, and also just in the open air on a football court, football field. So it's not, but many of the students in high school are they're not yet 18, so they can't have a bank, even if they wanted to. But then we're also teaching on an island, right? And there is no bank on the island, right? So it's not. So a lot of the people that we teach it to are like many Salvadorians, and they're unbanked. So it creates more opportunities for them to save, because that there's not a good way to save in the legacy world if you don't have a bank account,
absolutely.
right? You could, I guess you could, there's other ways
Put money
like...
under your pillow. It would be interesting.
I notice you're looking for a rock.
Yeah. I mean, people might say like, oh, well, you could buy a house or you could buy land. Can you without a bank account?
Yeah.
Are you going to buy a house, but you're
can.
not going to have a bank account? No. People that buy houses have bank accounts, right? People that buy stocks have bank accounts. So people that don't have bank accounts, the way that they save, well, they don't save, they spend, right? But it changes the mentality. Once you create the possibility for people to save, then it changes the time preference, right? It's like, oh, it makes people think further into the future than they otherwise would. So there's just a number of ways that I think good Bitcoin education will help expand the horizon of the students.
Absolutely. And I do believe that the that first 3 weeks, that educating on finance, I mean, so many people around the world can relate to the fact that they were never taught finance in school. I remember I came from the mortgage background, and I used to actually go to the high schools and talk to the students in their last 2 years of high school, and just go and talk to them about finance, just in regards to just even making sure you don't get into bad credit is just a big thing. And so just basic stuff that people just were never ever spoken to about it in high school. And not many parents taught their children about it either. So
and I think Bitcoin allows us to believe in ourselves. It allows us to think that we are capable. We are capable of more. We don't have to do what this very well-worn path in front of us, like you just have to get a job where you make money. You have to do X, right? It allows the individual to believe in themselves. And once you believe in yourself, then it changes everything. Then it's like, I will try to do that, I will, I will try to do something different with my life, something more meaningful with my life.
I just want to summarize some of the points that John mentioned there, because I think they're really valuable, really important, and it may be overwhelming at first to think, oh wow, my first Bitcoin or mi primer Bitcoin course might take 5 or 10 weeks, but then it's not just about Bitcoin. They're actually going back to some fundamentals such as how money works and helping you to become a better money manager in your life, just with some basic things like budgeting and managing your debt, or managing your savings, even more importantly with Bitcoin. And then there's also the section where you can learn to mine, you can learn to run a node, and you learn how to store savings, and you'll learn how to do transactions. And once you have this foundational of this is how money works, this is how Bitcoin works, and here are some opportunities to go into the world and start a business or live your life in a way that's going to grow over time. And I think that that time that we invest is incredibly valuable beyond the 10 weeks or however many hours it actually takes.
Yeah, so you're going on to that. You mentioned 10 weeks, so is it one lesson a week, or is it? Yes, it is. Yeah.
It's one lesson a week, so it could be, I mean, it's flexible, right? It could be, it's 10 classes.
10 classes, great. Okay, cool.
Right. So people could compress it if they had more time.
If there was classes.
Okay.
Yes.
Maybe.
Yeah, and we are experimenting with that. We're the island that I mentioned, because it's a little bit difficult to get there and a little bit costly.
Yeah.
We're doubling up, and the whole course will take place in 5 weeks, right?
Right.
So there's some flexibility there.
Yeah.
So people can do the courses here in San Salvador. Sometimes you do them around the country, but you guys released a product last month, I think it was.
Yeah, about a month ago.
Which enables people to educate themselves for free.
Yes. So we teach in basically the whole country, right? Our two headquarters, you could say, would be San Salvador and San Miguel. But there's 14 departments in El Salvador. Thus far, we're active in 12 of them. By the end of the year, we'll have worked in all 14 of them. So we're everywhere in the country. We also open source the material that we have for the Bitcoin Diploma. So the whole, it's on GitHub now. The entire course, you could just download the PDF. Anybody could use it. There's no restrictions. It's released under Creative Commons. And in fact, it's been really wonderful to see, people have just tagged us on Twitter or whatever that have printed it out themselves and like bound it themselves. And there's a whole stack of it. Like, I'm gonna go teach my neighbors, or I'm gonna go teach my friends, and in other countries, in other parts of the world, just totally on their own. Which again is the whole mission of all of this, right?
Borderless money, borderless education.
And empowerment, right? So it's to allow this person, the particular example that I'm thinking of, it was somebody in Spain, but to allow that person to do this. They're always allowed to do it, right? But it's just to make it a little bit easier for them. And in fact, somebody has translated it into Korean.
Wow.
Again, all on their own. So now we have to find somebody that speaks Korean to verify. To double check it, and then we'll release it in Korean. Somebody is working on it in English, and we expect to have a number of other languages. And beyond that, we'd like to take that same philosophy to everything with educational materials. The longer term plan, right? We have a lot on our plate now. But the longer term plan is to create a space where people could come to create, and we help them distribute. So people could come together, and it could be someone from Portugal and someone from Brazil, and they're like, hey, we want to do something in Portuguese. And maybe they just translate what we already have, and that's great. But maybe they're like, what's not served is, I don't know, there's no material in Portuguese about senior citizens. There's no material in Portuguese about children. There's no whatever the theme is, and they work on that, and they release it. But we are clearinghouse for all that stuff for
that's
for
awesome.
all this to come together.
It's a forever evolving education project.
Yeah,
that's cool.
That's really good. And then I suppose that's something for our viewers, and especially at the expat Salvadorans who are living in America, Canada, and around the world, and who have reached out to us in regards to where can we learn more about Bitcoin. The fact that they can now download it, and they can, and that's the actual diploma they can download. Is that what it is, or is it just a more of a study?
So the Bitcoin Diploma is a workbook. I mean, when students here, when they graduate, then we do give them like an actual
certificate.
Yes. But people could do it on their own.
So they can download it and learn. And so people who are say expat Salvadorans living in America, and they want to do the diploma, can they then send it in to get checked, or is it just something more of a they're learning it themselves, and it's all sort of based on the
so there's options today, and there's options that we hope to have in the future. So today people could do it on their own in the very near future. Then beyond just downloading it and reading it, then we hope to have it an online version of it, with teachers that read it and make it a little bit more for the digital audience. And we also hope to have physical Bitcoin Diploma not in 2022 but in 2023. Then we expect to teach physical Bitcoin diplomas beyond El Salvador.
Wow, that's great.
Including in the United States.
So what's your ultimate dream outcome of Diploma Bitcoin?
I mean, the dream is to change the world.
Yeah.
The dream is to reimagine what's possible. So I think that El Salvador is so important. It's the most important place in the world right now. That's why we're all here, right? Because we recognize that it is a rare opportunity in human history to make an impact on the future. It's a small enough country that we can make a difference, right? We don't need 1 million people working in lockstep to make a difference here, right? We just need a smaller number of people that are really committed. So we really can make a difference, and what happens in El Salvador will echo around the world for a generation. If we do it right here, we can change El Salvador. We can. That is achievable.
Yes.
We're doing it.
Yeah.
It's
right.
happening.
It's happening.
Yeah.
It is absolutely. We do see it. Yeah.
If we could do that, then we will change the world, right? And it's so rare that things come together that it's possible to have such a big impact. But Bitcoin in El Salvador is one of those rare moments in human history where we could really put our thumb on the scale, where we could really change the world. And the way that we're going to change the world is Bitcoin is ultimate teacher. And what Bitcoin teaches us is that we matter. Bitcoin teaches us that we are capable, that we can make our own decisions, and that we need to consider the future. And that mind shift will change everything. Will change everything throughout the world. Like the next generation the dream is that the next generation lives in a world that is radically different from the one that we exist in today. Because I think the world that we exist in today is unsustainable. Right? We are speeding towards a cliff here. And we are speeding towards a cliff without even realizing it, because we live in a world in which we're not meant to realize it. We live in a world in which we're not meant to see into the future. We're not meant to think about the future. We're not meant to think about anything beyond like what's right in front of us and what we are told to think about.
My brother and myself, something that we've realised about the First World, and we've watched a documentary on this by a BBC documentarist. He's basically been in the BBC his entire life, and he put together this documentary, and I think it's even called Dreamland. But he says that if you look at society today, especially the First World privileged society, we live in something called the Dreamland. And it relates to exactly what you've just said, which is we everything's nice and cozy and it's safe, and we see exactly what we're meant to see, and we do what we're meant to do, and we go to work and we're happy, and we buy what we're meant to buy, and we do forget. And I think that's something that's really been amazing. Like Nikki and I came to El Salvador I've never been to a third world country before.
Well,
Nikki
I've been to Bali. But
visited Bali, which has third world aspects to it, and then to see the stark contrast and hear about the true realities that happen here, which I can't imagine. I honestly can't imagine it, because I've grown up in the dreamland. Most of my travelling around the world has been to the dreamland countries, America and Europe, Australia. And so it's really, it's hard for people who have grown in the dreamland, and other people may reference it as the Matrix, but to come here and see this and really breathe it in and really live into it, and that's something that we've really, like, it's been a big journey. Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah, for sure. And again, not to belabor the point, but for me, Bitcoin isn't money. Bitcoin is power, right? The world in which we live now, money and power are interchangeable. But the real value of this is not to reimagine how we interact with money. It's to reimagine how we interact with power.
Wow. So is that going back to every dollar you spend is a vote, and that kind of power? Like, we have more power than we realize when we spend our money and our time?
Yeah, that's all related. Yeah.
Wow, okay. Man, this has been really deep and really amazing. Like, I've really enjoyed this. I've actually had tingles run down my spine maybe 4 or 5 times. I'm sitting there, I'm just like, whoa. It's powerful.
Now, you have mentioned, there's a company in the US already looking at people who have finished the diploma, and they're looking at employing them. What other opportunities, where is that going to put them on the platform of understanding Bitcoin and understanding what could be ahead of them?
At a base level, it's just something to put on their resume, in the same sense that, like, speaking English, it just opens up more possibilities. Like, that knowledge just opens up more economic possibilities.
And I suppose, and I might be answering my own question here, but once someone has done the diploma, all of a sudden they've got a base knowledge on Bitcoin and what Bitcoin can offer, that they'll quite often be intrigued to dive deeper and to go, this is interesting, what else can I learn and where can I go, and the feelers will go out.
It's an opportunity for growth of the individual, but also growth in opportunities, right?
John, this has been amazing. Like I said, chills running down my spine, hearing some of the things and how it can be impactful and inspiring to people. What are the calls to action? So obviously people can go to the website and learn more and do the diploma. Is there something they can also do to help the mission?
Yes. So this is probably a good chance for me to take a step back and say that there's a paradox here in which no one matters and we all matter, right? No one matters in the sense that I don't matter to the mission, you don't matter to the mission, no individual matters to the mission, right? It's bigger than that. But at the same time, we all matter, right? We all can make a difference. We all can have an impact. And the project has only been so successful because it's attracted really amazing people, like the team right now. There's a meeting going on there. It's attracted people that want to make a difference, and are willing to work towards that, and that's the only reason why we've achieved what we have is this really great team that's coalesced. So for the individual that wants to take the class, we want to provide those resources to get people off of zero. So make it a little bit tangible with numbers. In 2021, we had about 400 students. In 2022, we'll have about 10,000.
Wow. Yeah.
And we want to keep that up. We want to keep up that same rate of growth in 2023, which means adding another 0 or 2 to that. And that's very ambitious, and we can't do it alone. In order to achieve that, and it is something that we can achieve and something that we must achieve, we need a lot of help for that, right? And that help is I mean, the most obvious thing is money. People could donate. Also, we need expertise. We need awareness, which is what you guys are doing here, and that's wonderful. And we also need expertise, right? We need, in order to complete this mission, and the mission, again, is to change the world. It's to reimagine the world. It's grand. It's much grander than what we are capable of today, but we believe that we can. But we believe that we can with the help of many more people.
Yeah.
So it's expertise, people that are just like really great at what they do and could help the project. It could be something from the legacy world. It could be a lawyer or an accountant that's really just going to help us in that department. It could be someone who's is a great teacher, and they could help develop new materials for us. It could be, someone who is great at social media, and they could help us with their Instagram or Twitter. It's everything, right? Like, again, the mission is ambitious and bold, and in order to achieve it, we need everyone's help. This is for everyone, and it needs to come from everyone.
And I suppose anyone, like if you're looking at a business or individual person wanting to invest in Diploma Bitcoin and help out, you could be anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
Again, it's borderless.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and learning, doing the education, it's borderless, and
Yeah.
that's amazing. So so put it out there for anyone who's
Yes.
wanting to get in behind.
So that call to action, you don't just have to want to learn about Bitcoin and how it works. You can have skills, you can just have passion that you want to contribute to this cause, and you can be anywhere in the world and contribute anywhere in the world in any language.
Yeah.
And like John mentioned, if you're a professional, lawyers, accountants, other things, I don't know, you guys need a chef? Or if you've got social media skills and photography skills, all of those things, event organizing skills, all of those things are super valuable for the mission and what's happening here. And we're excited to see the growth firsthand. Like, this is amazing. Thank you very much, John.
Yeah, thanks,
we appreciate
John. It's been really enlightening to sort of dig down deeper and find a little bit more and a little bit more about you.
Well, thank you so much for having me and allowing this conversation to happen and to go out there.
This
awesome.
this is a conversation that has been on our to-do list for a long time, and I think as it evolves, we'd love to do it again.
Yeah, absolutely.
And maybe
Absolutely.
see if people have any questions or comments about this or want to know more, let us know down below, and we could do this again in a couple of months and focus it on whatever you guys need to hear.
Absolutely.
I mean, things evolve quickly. So maybe this will be my closing statement, because this is a refrain that I really like to use with the project, is everything will change but the mission.